The NFL is back, baby. Came back last night, and the defending Super Bowl champion LA Rams are off to a bad start. The Bengals played the Steelers on Sunday, and we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing the Dallas Cowboys in the Sunday night matchup. We have three huge matchups in college football that are going to be well worth talking about. And in Major League Baseball, we have a lot of close races that everybody knows what's at stake. The NASCAR Cup Series goes to Kansas this weekend for a very important race in the second round of the NASCAR Cup playoffs. And the final race of the IndyCar season will be at Laguna Seca, and I will give you my take on that. And we will start the show right after this.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is ABC's Wide World of Sport.
Let's get this show on the road. We have a lot to talk about, and we are going to go ahead and get started right now. And I am so glad. It is now time for the Scott Manning YouTube Sports Friday kickoff show, and we have a lot to talk about. We're going to go right into it. Last night, the Buffalo Bills beat up the Los Angeles Rams 31-10. Josh Allen had himself a game last night. 26-31, 297 yards, 3 touchdowns. Sadly, 2 interceptions, but he did carry the ball 10 times for 10 times for 56 yards and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 8 catches, 122 yards last night and a touchdown of his own. Gabe Davis, 4 catches, 85 yards and a touchdown. Von Miller, write this name down. Von Miller, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss last night. That was very, very big. Matthew Stafford for the Rams last night, not a stellar night like he had in the Super Bowl at the end of last season. 29-41, 240 yards, 1 touchdown, picked off 3 times. Cooper Kupp, his favorite receiver, 3 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. Bobby Wagner and Aaron Donald each had 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss. The Bills' defense last night came to play. 7 sacks total. And the Rams did not play like the Super Bowl champions from a year ago. 19 first downs, 243 yards total offense, 3 turnovers, and they were 6 of 13 on third down. The Buffalo Bills on third down, however, were almost dead solid perfect. 9 of 10 on third down, 413 yards total offense despite 4 turnovers. The Bills got the job done on the road in L.A. I guess the Hollywood stardom didn't do any good last night. But that's for another time. The Bills are now 1-0. The Rams are now under 500 at 0-1. This is the first time the Rams have been under 500 in a long time. Are the defending Super Bowl champions in trouble? We're going to have to wait and see on that one. But the truth of the matter is this. The Bills are the favorites to win the AFC East. No joke. And Josh Allen proved why. Watch out in Orchard Park, New York, around the Buffalo area. And it showed last night. All right. We have 2 other matchups I'm going to preview in the NFL this weekend. The AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals will face the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of new names and a lot of new names and new faces. But still, it's still the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati rivalry that we've gotten to know. And I know Pittsburgh's main rival is Cleveland. But these two teams, but the Bengals and the Steelers do not like each other. They've made no bones about it. So what's different this time? A new quarterback. And all of you know, Ben Roethlisberger announced his retirement. Mitch Trubisky will get the start this time. He's the new starter, just beating out rookie Kenny Pickett out from the University of Pittsburgh. By the way, the Panthers took care of West Virginia last weekend. I'm sure Pickett's still on cloud nine over that. But T.J. Watt, he's going to be back. The Defensive Player of the Year, 22 and a half sacks 1 year ago. Will he have those same kind of numbers like he did last year? We'll have to wait and see on that. Running back Najee Harris is back. Last year, he set a franchise rookie record of 1,200 yards rushing. He's another one to look out for. But on the Cincinnati side of the ball, Joe Burrow, despite everything that has happened to him, the Bengals are planning on having Joe Burrow as the starter for the Bengals this season. Wide receiver Jamar Chase is back. Last year, he set a team record with 1,455 yards reception yards. And running back Joe Mixon's back. Last year, he rushed for over 1,200 yards himself. But if you look at everything on paper, the Bengals are the reigning AFC champions. And they're back to defend their title and hopefully get back to the Super Bowl. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are 4-2-1 in openers. Again, all time. They're 4-2-1 in openers. This is going to be an interesting week, an interesting Sunday in Cincinnati, I think. But this is going to be an interesting game. What a way to open the season. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, two teams that do not like each other, and they've made no bones about it. Ryan Shazier almost got paralyzed because of this rivalry. I shouldn't sound like that, but it's the truth. And that's the bottom line. Now the Cleveland Browns do play the Carolina Panthers this weekend. I'm not going to worry about that game because besides, the Panthers have Baker Mayfield now. And I do want to say, I wish him the best of luck in Carolina. And I hope he does win a Super Bowl ring with the Panthers just to tell the Browns ownership they made a mistake. I'm not going to address that any further right now. Now, Tampa Bay, Dallas. This is the game on Sunday night. Tom Brady versus Dak Prescott. 1 year ago, Tom Brady threw for over 5,300 yards. And they got into the divisional round of the playoffs before they got bounced out by the Rams on a last-second field goal 1 year ago. Dak Prescott, 4,400 yards passing 1 year ago. The Cowboys once again had an early round exit. But if there's any issues with both teams, it's the offensive line. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, think about this. They lost guard Ali Marpet to retirement when he suddenly announced his retirement. Center Ryan Jensen was injured along with left guard Aaron Stiney. They both got injured in training camp. Second-year pro Robert Hainsley is the starting center. And rookie Luke Godlicks is going to be the starting left guard. And you think Tampa Bay has it bad? Think about Dallas. Dallas lost left tackle Trevion Smith. He's going to be out until December due to a hamstring injury. Rookie first-round pick Tyler Smith will be the starter. Will be starting at left tackle in his place. Left guard Connor McGovern replaces Connor Williams, who went to Miami during free agency. So the offensive line, this is going to be an interesting battle. This is going to be interesting. Could we be in for a defensive struggle against two high-power offenses? Because think about this. But there is a wild card in all this. And the Cowboys own it. Micah Parsons, the defensive rookie of the year 1 year ago, 64 solo tackles, 13 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. And, of course, the Cowboys do have C.D. Lamb and Amari Cooper back. But the receiver core for the Patriots is also back this year. Julio Jones, Mike Evans, Chris Goodwin, they're all back. Now, this battle on Sunday night is going to be well worth the watching. And that's the truth of this matter. And to be quite honest with you, I could see this game coming down to a defensive struggle because both offensive lines have woes. But the Cowboys do have the wild card. And that's Michael Parsons from Penn State. We'll see what happens on Sunday night. And that's just all there is to it. Okay. Let's move on, Rome. Let's move on. Now, that's your NFL stuff. Those are the important NFL games I want to talk about. Now, it's time to go to the college ranks. Number 24, Tennessee versus number 17, Pitt. The tale of the tape is a very interesting one. Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi, it had to be reminded that the Pitt Panthers came off their first ACC title. Last year, they beat Tennessee in Knoxville. And you got to think about this. This is the same Pitt team. These are the same Pitt Panthers that had to rally to come from behind to beat West Virginia in the backyard brawl. USC transfer Keldon Salvis is having a great weekend. He's had a great time of it here in Pittsburgh. And I'll tell you right now, Pitt's run defense got smacked in the face. 190 yards. They allowed 190 yards against West Virginia. That's double the 88 yards per game that they allowed last year in 2021. But let's think about this. Tennessee's head coach Josh Heupel said he's got one of the best high-power offenses, high-tempoed, and Tennessee beat Ball State handedly last weekend. Now, Tennessee has Hendon Hooker, one of the best, and Heupel's got one of the best high-power offenses in the country. I'm not going to lie. I've seen what Tennessee can do. But can the Volunteers finish the job? In the first quarter under Heupel, Tennessee's outscored their opponents 207-51. But you got to finish the job. You can't start it, but you just can't start it, but you got to do both ends of it. And that's where Tennessee was. In 14 games last year under Heupel, Tennessee was only 8-6. There's some food for thought right there. Pat Narduzzi made this comment about Heupel's high-power offense. He said, Tennessee's got one of the best high-power offenses in the country. And Josh Heupel even had some nice things to say about Keldon Salvis. He said, this is going to be an interesting test for us. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what our defense can do to him. They're coming off a high, coming from behind to beat West Virginia in the backyard brawl. And we're going to do what we can. You better believe it. Tennessee Pitt, this is a 3:30 game on I think it's either on ESPN or ABC. Enjoy that game. It's going to be a blast. All right. Now let's move on. Number 20, Kentucky versus number 12, Florida. 1 week ago, Florida wasn't even in the top 25. And all of a sudden, they find themselves number 12 in the country. And how did they do it? They beat up their opponents. But let's think about this for a minute. Florida, Kentucky, 1 year ago in Gainesville, Dan Mullen got smacked in the face by the Wildcats. And that's what started the free fall for the Florida Gators. They lost six of their last 9 games. Dan Mullen got dismissed. That brings in Billy Napier. This is going to be a fun game. Actually, take that back. Kentucky beat Florida in Lexington last year. This year's game is in Gainesville. 1 year ago, a blocked field goal for a touchdown gave the Wildcats the win. And that's how it started the free fall. But Florida is coming off of a huge high this time around. Florida upset number 7 Utah 29-26 last weekend. And on top of that, Florida played sack and turnover-free football. That's what needs to happen. And Billy Napier is very detail-oriented. Anthony Richardson last weekend had 165 yards passing and 106 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. Will Levis for Kentucky had 303 yards passing last weekend and 303 touchdowns against Miami of Ohio. Billy Napier had nothing but respect for Kentucky's offense. He said, Will Levis is one of the best offensive quarterbacks in the country. He's one of the best in the SEC outside of Alabama. And Mark Stoops, in starting his 10th season at Kentucky, said this about Florida. Florida's a different team this time, and it showed. Florida's a much different team than 1 year ago. I told my guys, forget about what you did last year. Forget about that. This is a whole new team with a whole new attitude. The big one this is one of the big ones in Gainesville. 1 year ago, Dan Mullen started a free fall that didn't end until he got the boot. What will happen this time? We'll have to wait and see. The game is in Gainesville, in beautiful Gainesville, Florida, in the swamp. Will the Gators get some gator bait and some wildcats? I shouldn't sound like that, but it is the truth. But we'll have to wait and see what happens this coming Saturday. And this is a Saturday night game at 7 o'clock on ESPN. And now, you want main event? I've got a main event for you. But here's the catch. You're going to have to stay, if you live on the East Coast of the United States, you'll have to wait. You'll have to stay up until the wee hours of the morning for this big main event to wrap up. This is what I'm talking about. Number 9 Baylor, number 21 BYU. Everybody's got this slated as the game of the weekend. And here's why. Kick returner Gavin Holmes for Baylor has already said, this is going to be a fun game to watch. Because we're going to be facing a BYU team whose fan base is not afraid to make a lot of noise. Baylor head coach Dave Araneda has already said, I've had my guys practicing. I've had them plug in crowd noise for practice this week because we know BYU's fan base is loud. Baylor quarterback Blake Sharpen, in his 69-10 win over Albany, had 214 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. He even ran for a score. Last year, Baylor beat BYU 38-24, but that game was in Waco. This time, the game is in Provo. Huge difference, and it will show. And for BYU, this is the final look at the Baylor before in a non-conference atmosphere. Next season, BYU's jumping to the Big 12. And this is going to be fun. BYU offensive lineman Blake Freeland and defensive back Lorenzo Falatua, both of them are in agreement, and they both said Baylor's a tough team. They're going to win the Big 12 because they got one of the best quarterbacks and they got an awesome defense. BYU head coach Kalani Saitek has already said, look out for us. We're not going to be taken lightly anymore. We need to prove to everyone in the Big 12 that we're not going to be a pushover. And we're going to prove to Baylor that we can beat them on our turf. BYU quarterback Jaron Hall has already said he's ready. He had 261 passing yards and 2 touchdowns in their win over South Florida last week. I look at it like this. A late night game, a 10-15 start on the East Coast of the United States. I may be staying up to about 1:30, 1:45 in the morning. but it'll be well worth it. So I'm going to say this now. We are going to have a battle that everyone's going to be talking about out in Provo. Lavelle Edwards Stadium is one of the most beautiful stadiums out in the West. A big weekend for college football. 3 big games. I did quick snippets and talking about them. You found out why. Game of the weekend. If you're wanting to stay up till the wee hours of the morning on the East Coast, I'm going to. But it might be well worth it. And that's the truth on this matter. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to Major League Baseball. We have 3 division battles that have gotten close. The New York and the NL East, the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves are only separated by a half a game. At one point, they were tied atop of the division, and the Mets did not have the lead. This was the first time all season that the Mets did not lead. Keep in mind, mark these dates down. September 30th to October 2nd, almost the near final weekend of the season, the final showdown between these 2 teams will be that week on the final weekend of the regular season. Now for the Mets, coming up this weekend, they got 3 against the Marlins on the road, and then they come home to face the Chicago Cubs. And as for the Atlanta Braves, they're on the West Coast for the next 6 games. They have 3 against the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners are fighting for a wild card spot. And they got 3 on the road against the Giants. The Giants are not going anywhere. What's happened to the Mets all of a sudden? They had about a 10-game lead at one point, and it's dwindled down to almost nothing. Are the reigning world champion Braves trying to prove that they can win the division or win a World Series without Freddie Freeman? I think that's what's going on. Can the Braves repeat? That's the $64,000 question. But I'll tell you what, just back earlier in the season, everybody was going to be thinking LA, New York, Houston. Now I'm not so sure. I think the Dodgers may have just came out as the real favorites to win the World Series. Because they own the best record by a bunch. They're going to have home field advantage throughout the postseason, barring any odd, whacked-out miracle from somebody else. And they're going in the wrong direction. The Mets have a half-game lead in the National League East. Forget about trying to get the best record in the National League. That goes to the Dodgers, hands down. But if you think the East is crazy, the American League Central has now all of a sudden turned into a 3-horse race. The Cleveland Guardians have a 1.5 lead over the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox. All of a sudden now, the American League Central's gotten close. And the Guardians and the Twins have a 3-game set in Minneapolis that starts tonight. That is going to be very important to see how that goes. And here's the schedule for the Cleveland Guardians for the next couple of weeks. They have 3 on the road against Minnesota. That's going to be a hard one. Then they got 3 versus the LA Angels. Then they have a makeup game against the White Sox, which was a washout game. Then after that, and this is a huge one, they got 5 against the Minnesota Twins. And then they got 3 on the road against the White Sox. You think it's going to be easy for the Guardians to get through this? It's going to be a nightmare. But listen to Minnesota's schedule for the next couple of weeks. They got 3 at home against Cleveland at Target Field. Then they got 3 at home against the Kansas City Royals. Then they go on the road to face the Guardians for 5 games. I've already addressed that already. And then they got 3 against the Royals on the road. But what about the Chicago White Sox? The White Sox have 3 more against Oakland. They beat the A's last night 14-2. Then after that, the White Sox have 2 versus the Rockies at home. Then they got to go to Cleveland and play that makeup game. They got washed out a few weeks back. Then they got 3 on the road against the Tigers. And then after that, they got 3 at home in Chicago against Cleveland. I'm going to tell you something. This battle for the American League Central is getting crazier and crazier by the minute. It's a miracle I'm going to have any hair left after the craziness that we've seen. It's going to come down to the final week of the season. And we've got about a little under a month to go in the season in Major League Baseball. I look at it like this, and this is the way I see it. Whoever can survive this will have earned their right to play in the postseason. And that's just all there is to it. Bottom line. And that's about the best way I can put it right now. All right. Now I need to address this. I can't believe I'm saying this. The AL East is getting a little too close for comfort for some people. The New York Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are now only 4.5 games back with under a month to go. The Yankees are self-imploding. And the Yankees and the Rays have a 3-game set this weekend. And this is the final matchup of the regular season. So is there a lot at stake? Absolutely. And then after that, and I want to focus a little further down the road. After that, the Yankees are on the road against Boston for 2. They got to go on the road. They got 3 on the road against Milwaukee. And then 2 at home against Pittsburgh. And then after that, the Rays have 4. The Rays have 5 on the road against Toronto and 3 at home versus Texas. Can the Tampa Bay Rays catch the New York Yankees in the AL East? The Yankees had a horrible August, and it's now carrying over into September at the worst possible time. So I look at it like this. The AL East is now all of a sudden up for grabs. If the Rays can get a sweep of the Yankees, you know how big that's going to be? That is going to be not just big, that's going to be huge. And that's just all there is to it. The Yankees at one point had about an 11-12 game lead. And now all of a sudden it's down to 4.5 with just under a month to go. It's not impossible for the Rays to catch the Yankees in the AL East. It's not impossible at all. The AL East now is up for grabs. And you can think of and you can blame the Yankees for their bad August, which is now carried over into September for the AL East to be this close. But the Tampa Bay Rays have been playing red hot. They've been red hot. I will give them that. However, the Yankees, I'll tell you right now, the AL East is now up for grabs. The wild card races are so close it's not even funny. Tampa Bay, Seattle, Toronto in the American League. That looks like it looks like that's how your wild card race is going to wind up, because the Baltimore Orioles are now 4.5 back with under a month to go in the season. Now the Orioles have had a really great season. If they finish above 500, that's a happy moment for them after all the years of struggle they've had. But in the National League, the Atlanta Braves own the top spot. The Padres have 2. But the Phillies have that final wild card spot. And the Milwaukee Brewers, who have had their struggles in the second half of the season, are now 2.5 games back. And like I've said before, the Los Angeles Dodgers own the best record in all of baseball. What does that mean? It doesn't mean much unless you do well in the postseason and win the World Series. Because I've seen the best teams. The Seattle Mariners, 2001, won over almost 100 and some odd ball games, had the best record in baseball. They flopped against the Yankees in the ALCS. I always think about that all the time. All right, enough Major League Baseball talk. Let's move on. The NASCAR Cup Series is going to be at Kansas this weekend. Last weekend in Darlington, Eric Jones won the Southern 500 driving for Petty Motorsports. A non-chase driver won the race. Most of the chase drivers had trouble. Kevin Harvick had a car fire. Kyle Busch's engine blew under yellow with just about 20, 30 some laps to go. And some of these other chase drivers had trouble. But as we go to Kansas this weekend, this is how the points will stack up. Joey Logano is the points leader with William Byron second. Danny Hamlin will be third in points. Christopher Bell will be fourth. Tyler Reddick fifth. Ryan Blaney sixth. Kyle Larson will be seventh in the points. Ross Chastain will be eighth. Chase Elliott, who's won the most races this season, will be ninth after he had troubles in Darlington. Alex Bowman will be 10th. Kyle Busch will be 11th. He had that blown engine last weekend. Daniel Suarez will be 12th. This year's Daytona 500 champion Austin Cindric will be 13th. Austin Dillon 14th. Chase Briscoe will be 15th. And Kevin Harvick, who had that car fire, whose car caught fire in the middle of the race, will be 16th in the points as we go to Kansas. A big weekend at Kansas Speedway. And I'll tell you now, we're going to have a great 400-mile race. We'll see what happens this weekend in Kansas, and may the best driver win. Hopefully, one of the chase drivers will be going to victory lane this weekend, because Eric Jones winning the Southern 500 as the first chase race was a shocker to many people. And NASCAR is going to be investigating what's been causing some of these unnecessary car fires. After what happened this weekend in Darlington, they're going to look into it and see what's been going on. The Cup Series goes to Kansas. We'll see what happens and may the best driver win. All right. Let's move on to the IndyCar Series. The IndyCar Series has the final race of the season at Laguna Seca this weekend. And we have a 5-driver title fight that's going to come down, that might come down to the final lap of the season. Will Power has the points lead by 20 points over Joseph Newgarden, who's second, and Scott Dixon third. Will Power only has one win this season, and he's leading the points. Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon, who are tied for second in the points. Newgarden has won 5 races this season. He's not in the points lead, but Scott Dixon's won 2. The 6-time champion is trying to do what no other driver has done. Try to win the IndyCar title 7 times. Marcus Ericsson is 4th in the points. He has 1 win, but it was the biggest one of all. The Indianapolis 500. And Scott McLaughlin is 5th in points. He has 3 wins this season. Those are your 5 drivers that have a shot at the title. And the IndyCars are going to Laguna Seca this Sunday. That's a 3 o'clock race on NBC. And the Cup Series will be at 3 o'clock on the USA Network. I forgot to mention that. And my sincerest apologies. 5 drivers fighting for the championship in the IndyCar Series. It's going to be crazy. I might be watching the IndyCar race on Sunday instead of watching the Cup race. And you're seeing why. 5 drivers with a shot at the championship. It's going to be fun to watch this weekend at Laguna Seca. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for my closing thoughts. As we get ready for the title fight at Laguna Seca and the IndyCars, it makes me think back to some of those great IndyCar battles that we've had in the past. Remember 1985 when Al Unser Sr. and his son Al Unser Jr. battled for the championship? Al Sr. finished fourth in the race and won the title and beat his son for the championship by 1 point. That was one of the greatest IndyCar title fights I have ever seen. The following year in 1986, Michael Andretti and Bobby Rahal, it came down to the final race in Tamiami Park in Miami. Michael's engine blew. Bobby Rahal was the champ, despite only finishing 8th in the race. And how ironic, Al Unser Jr. won the final race of the 86 season. A victory 1 year earlier in 85 would have given him the national title. Then in 1992, Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti battled for the championship. Michael led flag to flag and won the pole. He did everything that he could, but it wasn't enough. Rahal was the champion by 4 points. Michael Andretti won the race. His father Mario finished second, right behind him. Michael disappeared to a disappointing career in Formula One, but he came back to the IndyCars with just limited success. Those are just some of your most memorable title fights in IndyCar history. I'm used to seeing 2 drivers battle for the championship. I'm not used to 5 guys going for the IndyCar title. A 5-driver title fight. The gloves will be off on Sunday afternoon at Laguna Seca. And that's all I have to say on this Friday. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me here on this Friday. Please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Scott Manning. All you have to do is type my name, scroll down, look for this pretty face, click subscribe, and you will see all of the sports videos I have done so far. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me here on this Friday. You guys have a great day. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for being with me, and God bless. Goodbye, everybody, and I thank you.